Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again to the Too Late Show with Dr. Beelzebub Crow. Folks, welcome back. It's a new year, 2021, and I just want to say, first of all, I'm a big fan of odd years. I prefer odd years to even years personally, and it's not a leap year, which is a great thing. You can't trust a leap year. You never know what the government is doing on that last day. That's when they slide in all those extra laws they don't want you to know about. Yeah, you gotta be careful. So we got a great show for you tonight. We're doing something a little different this time around. A lot of the times we like to hit current events. So we like to talk about the various goings on of the world. But today we've got an interview for you folks. And we like to interview a lot of people. We like to interview people from a lot of different walks of life. Last time on the show we had a pirate and a professional dog murderer. This time we're getting somebody that's like 5 or 6 echelons higher. In the serious jobs category. And we'll get to that in just a minute. Everybody who knows what's going on knows who we're having on the show tonight. I think you do. A certain Dark Lord of the Sith? Yeah. He's got other titles, don't worry. We'll get around to it. But before we really get kicked off, I want to let people know about the show's plans for the new year. So first of all, contrary to popular opinion, no, we have not been placed in federal prison. We are still free and clear of all charges. Secret President Jaguar is currently in hiding, but he'll be back. He always is. And we're hoping here at the show that we can move forward into this year and bring you a lot of really good content. If I had like an orchestral score, I would be playing that, kind of stuff. And while doing kind of a flash forward of the things you're going to see this year, we can't show those because we haven't filmed them yet. But if we had filmed them, I guarantee you they would be awesome. So we're going to be bringing you interviews, both in studio and man on the street style interviews, where we get masked up in a Bubble Boy suit and go out into public and try and get people's opinions on the various happenings in the world. We're also going to be moving into the rocks and crystals sort of sector of the economy. I've been collecting various rocks and crystals for the last several months, kind of arranging them around in my house and outside of my house to protect from COVID, and it's worked. I also haven't left my house at all in 10 months, but I'm pretty sure it's the rocks thing that's doing it. So we're going to be getting into the rock business. We're going to be selling various rocks, various crystals, various geodes. But again, we're going to get into all that much later in the year. Now, before we move on to the meat and potatoes section of the show, we wanted to wish our audience a happy holiday. We haven't seen you in a couple of months, and we may have missed a couple of crucial and or important holidays. So we want to just kind of go over a couple of the holidays we may have missed with the audience, and hopefully mark these occasions going forward. So I think since the last time we spoke, what do we got? We got Thanksgiving. Did we do a Thanksgiving? Yeah. We had a pretty good Thanksgiving here at the Too Late Show. We ate a lot of turkeys. We had our crows go out and hunt us some turkeys and bring home the bacon, so to speak. And then we did the double Christmas and Boxing Day. You open up your presents on Christmas, and then you and everybody else fights over them on Boxing Day. And whoever is conscious last gets all the presents. We also we did a New Year, supposedly. I didn't see it happen. If the ball doesn't drop in New York City, in my opinion, that actually does not usher in the new year. A lot of people don't know this, but Father Time is actually under the ball in Times Square. So you actually have to crush him with the giant ball in order to usher in the new year. And since that didn't happen, because of the pandemic and all, I feel like nobody actually got crushed. So I don't actually know if it's a new year or not. I don't know. I'll leave that for the experts to decide, the time scientists and the whatnot and the what have you. Are there any other holidays that I missed?
Christmas 2.
Oh, Christmas 2. Yeah, okay, I forgot about that. Yeah, right. Okay, folks, listen. Christmas was kind of a bust this past year. A lot of people, got sick and died and whatnot, and, a lot of presents weren't exchanged that really should have been exchanged. Like, I didn't get any presents, personally, and that kind of fucks with me a bit. It makes me think, what's wrong with me that nobody wants to give me presents. So we're going to do a Christmas 2. Sometime, maybe later this month, maybe next month. We haven't really settled on the date yet, but we are holding Santa hostage until Christmas 2. So if anybody has been to the North Pole since Christmas and like, oh, where's Santa? The elves are going crazy. We know where Santa is. We'll just say that he's in a Christmas-style black site, and he's going to be there until Christmas 2.
Rates on holiday black sites are really cheap right now.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't believe the prices on holiday black sites are just tanking. We're going to be holding Santa until Christmas 2. We'll have him on the show. We'll have Christmas 2. I'll hopefully get some presents this time around. And, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
What'd Satan get you for Christmas, Dr. Crow?
Nothing. He doesn't even do Christmas.
Oh.
Yeah,
that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, he's like an aggressive Festivus guy. You know how it goes. All right, folks. All right. Now, I know a lot of you have been clamoring to see slightly more serious content from us here at the Too Late Show. So we thought that we would completely ignore those requests and instead do a sort of a freewheeling interview with a guy that you could interview in a serious fashion if you were a trained journalist and not the son of Satan. But I'm the second thing, and while I did attend Columbia for a couple of semesters, I did get kicked out, so I don't really think – it's like a fifth of a journalism degree. That's not nothing, but it's not a whole degree. So based on our previous conversations on this show about various cryptocurrencies, Looshcoin, etc., not to mention my extreme holdings in Dogecoin, which I do not recommend our audience purchase because I am not registered with the SEC, so I don't make those kinds of recommendations. But continuing in the crypto space, tonight we have a very special guest. He is the Swami Wanna Have a Banana, Dark Lord of the Sith, Vinay Gupta. And folks, it's going to be an interesting conversation.
Sort of a freewheeling
interview. We're going to talk about a lot.
With a guy.
He's not only a crypto king, he's also the inventor of the hexayurt. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce the one and only Swami Wanna Have a Banana, Dark Lord of the Sith, Vinay Gupta, Esquire, Doctor. Several other titles, probably. I don't know those necessarily.
How's it going, Dr. Crow?
All right.
Who can I kill for you today?
Moving straight into the implied assassination talk, I see. We're going to have to check with legal on that one.
Hurry up. Can you hear me now?
I don't have audio from you, Vinay.
I think you can hear me now.
There we go. Yeah, I got it.
Okay, you got me?
Yes, I do.
Very good.
Excellent.
Very good.
So how are you doing tonight? It looks like you're in space somewhere?
Yes. A secure, undisclosed location. We're on my way to go and raise a couple of planets, as we do,
Oh, nice. Any planets in particular you're looking to take out?
Well, we should be approaching this place with one moon and a very, very unruly population sometime in the next 4 or 5 minutes. So, you'll hear from us.
Okay, all right. That's slightly sinister, but I could roll with it. We're so far underground, it would take an extremely powerful laser system to get to us.
I know.
Well, thanks so much for coming on this show. I don't even know where to start. A man of such success, such as yourself, an author, a businessman of some repute, a world traveler, some would say, and possibly burner.
And also Dark Lord of the Sith.
Well, of course. That goes along. Once you've achieved so many levels, you automatically. It's kind of like getting an honorary PhD. You just become a Dark Lord of the Sith at some point.
Honorary Dark Lord of the Sith. I can work with that. Honorary Dark Lord of the Sith. I'm taking it.
You get all of the power, but none of the responsibility, which is the best combination possible.
Hey, I got to work out how to force choke people by Skype call, right? I mean, when you can force choke over Zoom, like now you're really talking power.
Oh yeah, you could be on any board of any company.
It's basically the
Make
opposite
all
of
the
Spider-Man.
decisions.
Ooh, yeah. Maybe we can get like a little Force Lightning plug-in.
Sure. Comes right out of the camera. Zap.
Yeah, perfect. Fix this for me.
Maybe get him through the mouse, give him a good finger zap.
Yeah, I like doing it through the camera. Just the beams come right out of the eyes through the screen.
Directly to the face, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are you sipping on there?
Whiskey from Earth.
Ah, one of the finest spirits.
And they're not going to be making it much longer.
Unfortunately not. Now, why won't they be making whiskey? Oh, are you going to blow up the distilleries? My God, man.
I'm not saying I've cornered the market or anything, but if you're going to raise the planet, you should buy whatever they make first.
You
right?
probably should. And if you're going to make out with any Earth commodities, I think you could do a lot worse than whiskey. That's got to be one of the best ones.
Whiskey and cheerleaders. These are the two things that Earth is really good for.
So tell me, how would a man such as yourself keep track of an extensive whiskey collection like that? I mean, you could label them, sure.
Here in the Empire, everything is obviously very well organized, right? You will notice that there's very little stray property around a starship.
That's very true.
Right? Because you don't want, those lunatics in white like tripping over things and shooting themselves in the face with their own rifles.
They're very
Believe me, we've had it happen. Right? So, we have to keep everything very tidy, otherwise the stormtroopers will, those guys will drown in puddles. If you leave them outside on their own, they'll drown in rain.
Some say they're even dumber than sheep.
Yes, absolutely. So on the par with the chicken, which is what we breed them out of after the problems we had with the Boba Fett batch.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Part chicken,
they're basically,
man.
like the white stuff is basically shell.
That explains why they're so fragile and can be destroyed by absolutely. Teddy bears, 1 meter tall teddy bears.
When we tried it with sheep, they used to just baa, and that was not really a good look. You can't take over the universe with sheep.
It's also hard to give a sinister speech when all of your troops are just meh.
It's not the first time I've had to straight face it through something like that. So yes, you just have to use computers to track all the property. Otherwise, you lose stuff, and if you lose stuff in space, people die. Right? When they go to Mars base, do you think they're going to just leave wrenches lying around? No. What if you leave a wrench around and the damn thing gets stuck in an airlock and the airlock doesn't close properly because there's a wrench jammed in the works?
That sounds like your ship might blow up.
It would be a really bad plan to lose things in space, right? So what we're basically doing over here is computational tracking of property.
So you write it down and then you scan it in manually?
Depends what you're working with, right? So if you take the Mars example, right, somebody is going to have a manifest of every single physical object that goes out to Mars, and they're going to have a disposition of where that object is at all times. Almost certainly.
You don't want to lose track of your fuel or your wrenches or anything.
If it's scientific or technical, and you might need it in a hurry, you're going to have to know where it is right down to position on shelf. Where is the adrenaline? Where is the carbon fiber tape? Where are the phytonutrients that we have to put in the plants where they don't grow properly? You just can't be losing track of stuff. So compare that to Earth, where we don't know where anything is, including $28 trillion of money from the rich, anybody that went to Guantanamo Bay, half of the people arrested by the Chicago PD, and Donald Trump's brain.
It's very difficult to tell. I've been searching for all those things, and all I found is $1 trillion.
Well, you see, it's hardly efficient to tax at that scale. You can't find all of it. You might as well not tax these people at all. So when you start thinking about, this notion of we ought to know where the shit is, right? We already do that for things like gold and diamonds, right? And we've been doing it for things like gold and diamonds since the age of quill pens, right? We've now got 100 billion times more computing power than we had in the age of quill pens, and somehow we don't seem to be able to find our shoes in our houses, right?
There's simply
you know,
too many objects to keep track of in a manual sense.
Because we did all this industrial production stuff for the manufacturing end, and we did all this targeted advertising stuff for the sales end, which, as you know, is a Sith technology licensed directly from the Empire.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, Sith Corp, right? We really, we've been doing a lot of import-export with Earth, but they stopped paying their bills a while ago, and we're just going to have to repossess. So, we'll get onto that in a minute. So the basic model is you have all this computing power. We've already digitized the information. We've digitized the music. We've digitized the film. We've digitized the production of things. It's all CNC manufacturing. Mm-hmm. We've digitized the distribution of things.
Sure.
We've digitized the selling of things with all this targeted advertising bullshit. And as soon as the Amazon box arrives at your house, it is an anonymous piece of junk without any digital identity at all. And if you want to sell it on eBay, you have to take pictures of it yourself and type all that shit in from scratch.
Right. And
clearly,
even if you're lucky, it's a piece of consumer electronics with a serial number that you could register manually, but that's not going to happen in the vast majority of cases.
Right. And if, the serial number, it's good for the manufacturer and you take it back. But you as a third party, if I'm going to sell you a Mac and I tell you the serial number, you can't check with Apple to see whether I'm the owner of that serial number.
Nope. You can barely even
Apple
do that
knows.
with vehicles.
You see, right? Apple won't tell you who owns the thing that you're going to buy. They know they have the serial number. You can't check.
It's official refurbished. What more do you need to know?
See what I'm saying? And if you're buying it from me rather than from Apple, right? I can't read you the serial number. You check it in the Apple database and you see my name beside it.
Yeah.
Right? So what we have is this position where all the physical property is just a sea of anonymous bullshit, right? That sea of anonymous bullshit, we're currently consuming about 3 planets worth of anonymous bullshit.
But wait,
right?
We're just the one planet. That math doesn't add up.
Right. And, the Empire has noticed this problem. We trade at a very advantageous rate bullshit from other planets to your planets, but we're going to foreclose real soon.
Yeah, we have something of an excess, unfortunately.
Right? And, this notion that you have a balance of trade deficit with the future, you're just mortgaging the future over and over and over again to run the present at way higher levels of living than you can afford in the present. And eventually, either the Sith foreclose or the forecloses. Either nature collapses because you've overtaxed it, or the Sith come in and raise your civilization and turn the human race back into either robot slaves or something like that. Yeah. And you guys produce a never-ending stream of whiskey and coffee and chocolate and a few other things the Earth is good at, and we go back to sensible fiscal policy.
Yeah.
Did I mention we merged with the Republican Party about 4 years ago?
I thought that sounded familiar. I thought I had heard this somewhere before.
And now that our man has completely blown out, the Sith are going to come and have to do this personally.
Yeah, it's the crucial. You've got the Republican Tory Empire matrix, and that forms a sort of a triangle of oppression.
The triangle of oppression, but then the opposing triangle of oppression is Mao and Stalin and Pol Pot and all the rest of that bullshit. You cannot find relief left or right, right? And as we all know, the Jedi are basically where Al-Qaeda got all their ideas from.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the fashion sense, hairstyles, it's all right there.
Blowing up large industrial and commercial infrastructure with very small numbers of religious fanatics. The human race has very few places to turn other than the Sith.
It sounds like you're well positioned.
Well, I mean, we've been working on this for a while because, the hippies are not going to save us. Corporatism is not going to save us. Libertarianism, you've met these people. Communism, they gave it a try and it turned out to be more dangerous than other forms of genocide by like 90%.
Oops.
So, we really need some new ideas here, right? And, pretty much the only hope you have left is Gandhi because it's Gandhi or the Sith. Everything else has been tried. Right?
Yeah.
Everything else has been tried, and it turns out not to work. So, Sith or Gandhi is your choice. I'm here to represent the Sith. Maybe you should get this Gandhi thing going before I arrive in my spaceship.
Yeah, and you said I've only got a few days to do this, so I really got to get this movement kicked off.
Well, I mean, we've been sending probes, right? You have received our UFOs.
Yeah, just a couple of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, that one that went to Area 51, we still get emails from that guy asking when we're coming to pick him up.
Yeah.
So, think of what it looks like to actually just start keeping records of where the matter is. Cars, sure, right? Tents. Do you own a tent?
I do.
Right. How many days a year do you use your tent?
Probably about 10.
Right. There you go. Right. Pretty simple. You own it 10 days a year. Like, you could make tents that were designed to be used 200 days a year. Mm-hmm. Right. And, when it's winter, you ship your tents to where it's summer and they go camping. And when it's summer, they ship the tents back again. And you just have kind of a revolving pool of these things, and a sea container arrives, and the standard tents come out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Somebody making minimum wage checks them all out, makes sure they still work, hands you a tent.
Yep. That's
result.
A tent.
90% drop in the environmental footprint of your camping habit.
Yeah, because if we already have the infrastructure in place to move these objects from point A to point B, and the current issue is more overproduction than anything else, I mean, it sounds like this is a pretty elegant solution to the issue.
And if you're doing it on that basis, if you're sharing your tent with 21 other people, that could be a $2,000 tent, and your annual use is the same as it is now.
Sure, but for a much higher quality product.
Carbon fiber, Cuban, all the rest of this kind of thing. You have somebody who takes it out, checks it still works, puts on any patches or modules that need to be applied to make sure it's still up to scratch, verifies the waterproof seals is still in place, puts it in a bag and hands it to you as if it was new, but you're not wrecking the world by having something that sits there unused.
Yeah.
And then replicate across every rarely used object.
Okay. Which is maybe not the vast majority, but a good number of the objects that we own. Yeah, we don't use them very often.
A lot of the really high value stuff, right? I mean, if you think of like DSLRs, right? You want a DSLR maybe 5 times a year?
Yeah.
Right? And if you can have 10 grand's worth of camera equipment turn up 5 times a year, insured, all the batteries are charged, all the SD cards are empty, everything works, it's got half a dozen lenses, it's got lights, it's all great. You shoot your kid's birthday party, and then you put it all back in the box, and you never see it again.
Yeah. And you paid
Are you happier or sad?
The fraction of a cost that you would have to either own the thing on its own or to rent it, right? Because, I mean, like renting, I suppose, is an analogous form of ownership, but has significant drawbacks compared, I think, to what you're describing.
So the rental systems that exist right now, because they don't have enormous scale, they're crazy expensive. They're brutally expensive, right? I mean, if you've ever rented camera gear, like from a place that does camera gear for people who do things like shoot commercials, right? Like you're not going to be able to sit down for a week. And that problem of why is this stuff so expensive, the only people that rent gear are pros.
Right. That need it for a specific job and then do the job and then turn it back in, yeah.
And at that point, they know they're selling to pros, they charge top dollar, and off we go. So I don't want to set up a global rental economy, right? That is not the solution. Much as it appeals to my Dark Lord of the Sith nature,
yes, of course.
You will find that people that have to rent everything are very poor.
Yeah, it's the classic expensive boots versus cheap boots problem.
You see what I'm saying, right? So what you want is a system where you buy it and they drop it off at your house and you use it and then you resell it to the next guy in line that wants to use it. Interesting.
Okay. I see what you're saying. So it is personal ownership, but limited to the window in which you will find it useful.
Very, very tight turnarounds in secondhand markets, right? So imagine if eBay worked properly, right?
What?
Everything was delivered, right? I know, right? Everything delivered when it's meant to be delivered. The stuff looks exactly like it looks in the picture. And when you want to sell it again, it immediately leaves your house and you never see it, and there's no bullshit from the buyers.
And so how is that accountability enforced? Because I mean, eBay does have buyer protection, but like sometimes it pans out, and most of the time it doesn't.
We've got a viewer question in the chat
over the internet.
Can you rent dopamine?
I guess that would work.
It's been working great so far. So for first joke I gave over the internet, right? We have 2 very clever approaches to this. Working with our good old friend, the blockchain, which, as you know, is another piece of alien technology.
Oh yeah, didn't we get that from Venus, or was that from the Empire?
That is not Imperial technology.
Oh, okay, that's good. I trust that.
No, No, it comes from the giant squid from outer space, who the Empire have been fighting for a long time.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Beware
The enemy,
tentacles.
capital E.
Cthulhu tech. Right? But nonetheless, it's here, and you're going to have to figure out how to domesticate it. Just make sure it doesn't get its tentacles into anything it shouldn't. So we take this lovely piece of Cthulhu tech, the blockchain, and that provides you with basically legal representations from everybody that touches the process, recorded in a single source of truth. So you pick up the box, you scan the number with your phone,
Bing.
beep. It goes and gets the complete legal status of the object from everybody that's had a hand on that inside of the window, and you decide whether you're going to take this thing or not.
So it's
that's
the
evidence
actual
storage side.
material history of the object instead of whatever someone may choose to represent in an ad.
Ideally, right, from point of manufacture, and everything there is in a condition that we would call litigation ready. So it's as if you're going to litigate over the thing, and all the evidence is prepared and maintained at the standard you'd use for litigation at all times.
So just automatic discovery. I don't have to request 50 different sets of documents. It's auto-discovered. That's amazing.
Right? 100% litigation ready at all times, because if the time has come to nuke somebody because they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, we don't want to have to spend 3 months gathering evidence. All state relevant to the legal status of the object is on-chain. If it's not on-chain, it's inadmissible.
Okay, yeah.
See how this works?
Yeah, so any problem would at any time be able to be addressed by the information that is currently on file.
And then the flip side of that is that all of the people who are touching the object are bound to an arbitration clause using the 1958 New York Convention on Foreign Arbitral Awards, which means that when the case goes, it doesn't go to some hick judge in East Texas who has his wife print his emails out. It goes to a technically sophisticated arbiter in London.
Yes, a professional who actually knows what they're doing and is not subject to the whims of the political process.
From species that are resistant to manipulation by the Force.
Toydarians.
And the Hat.
Oh, the ultimate.
Well, I mean, now that those guys are out of the vice business and they've moved into being lawyers.
Yeah. And once you move out of gangstering, you've got law, finance, banking, and derivatives trading, I guess. Those are your big three.
Oh, and also the Catholic Church.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's more of a Jedi thing. I have a theory that the Jedi Temple is, they're doing a little bit of grooming at the Jedi Temple. I don't know about that.
And that's where Sith come from.
That's right.
Sorry, you've just completely broken my brain now. I understand why Anakin is so angry.
Master Epstein, calm down, you must. Master Epstein, no.
These are the speculations that I just can't help myself with. A rewatch of the prequel trilogy has to maintain interest somehow.
It's all going to look very different now.
Oh yeah.
So the arbitration stuff, right, comes to your private courts, right, and your committee of etc. Mm-hmm. One could be a lawyer, one could be a programmer, one could know everything there is to know about fine wine.
Sure, because you would want an expert on the panel that knows something about the object in question. That makes sense.
And the 58 Convention makes their ruling legally enforceable in 160 countries.
Okay, interesting. So this 58 treaty is not just a national legal framework, it is a multinational legal framework that allows you to keep doing business quickly.
Hundreds of billions of dollars a year of settlements across that framework. Entire industries run on it. Everything to do with things like oil rigs, maritime, boat maintenance, all of that is arbitration. You never want to take that to a real court.
Yeah, that could become a 10-year-long legal battle. You'll pay more in lawyer fees than you will to replace the oil derrick.
Expert witnesses, right? You don't want expert witnesses, right? You want judges that already understand everything, so the expert witnesses do a little bit, rather than having to teach these people everything from scratch at $450 an hour.
That's quite a rate to try and teach anyone anything. I would teach very slowly.
You wonder why lawyers.
Let's start with the basics. What is a cell tower?
Right. Your Honor, can you read? Well, let's start with Boolean logic.
Let's start with that, yeah. Let's start with the alphabet.
What's a compiler, dude? So, you skip all of that with technically sophisticated arbitrators. So, evidence is on chain. Arbitrators are experts. 58 Convention, evidence, arbitration, procedural rules. Litigation in a contained space by a set of rules that we deem to be suitable for handling physical chattel property.
Yes, and is sufficiently broad enough that 160 countries were willing to sign on to it.
And it's been running pretty much uneventfully for 60 years.
Which is pretty remarkable for any multinational agreement, let alone one that has to deal with legality.
It's mostly staffed by grown-ups because for the most part only large corporations with corporate councils use those systems, so they don't wind up with a lot of civilians in the mix.
Yeah, that checks out. I mean, I imagine anything small enough that would go to small claims court you would never need an arbitrator for.
And the arbitrators are brutally expensive. Right?
Sure.
So a lot of our kind of art is lots of off-ramps to get out of these disputes before we hit arbitration. Right? And so what I've stressed here, right, is the base platform, right? This is the do or die thing that puts the teeth in the system. Mm-hmm. Right? We will force choke you over the blockchain.
It's the Sith bite.
The Sith bite, right? Now, of course, you don't want to get that out all the time because arbitration is expensive. So most of the time, you handle this with insurance and warranties and out-of-court settlement. So we say we're going to deliver the camera is delivered, the camera is fucked, right? You take some pictures of the camera being fucked, right? And you say, this was delivered in poor condition. Mm-hmm. I want a claim on the warranty, right? Because it's your property, you bought it.
I just purchased it,
fucked,
yeah.
right? And because you own it, why are you going to fuck your own camera? It's
presumably
yours,
I wouldn't, yeah.
You bought it. So if you arrive and you say it's fucked, you then make a claim on their warranty. Hey, you told me this wasn't going to be fucked and it's fucked. They immediately pay you because why are they going to fight with you when it's almost certainly their error?
Right. They either they sold a broken object or failed to pack it properly.
Right.
You got to put the packing peanuts in there.
Shit went wrong.
Right.
And if you think about the way we handle this with like car crashes, right? Because we've got real court stuff standing behind car crashes, the insurance companies, generally speaking, settle immediately.
Yeah, it's not worth their time usually to take it to court unless there has to be something strange going on for them to want to take it to court.
And so it will be with physical property, because what winds up happening is the entire thing is in a mesh of insurance. The insurers are taking 0.5%, 1%, 2% of all transactions. Much the same way that Visa does now. The insurers are very fat and happy, and what they provide you is a completely friction-free surface for managing this kind of circular economy bullshit.
Which, again, I guess benefits from our current state of production, which means that there will always be an excess of product floating around that the insurers will be able to get their hands on.
And it's super digital all the way through the production process. All we're doing is extending that digital ramp, quantitative finance, then going on to total quality control, zero defect manufacturing, then going into targeted advertising, then going into the material asset tracking stuff, then going into end-of-life disposal, where the end-of-life phase starts with the complete technical schematics for the object from the manufacturer.
Okay, now that's interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't that allow people to, rather than smash stuff to bits, selectively recycle pieces that they would find useful for other things?
If somebody had total omniscience about the post-consumer waste stream, every single object, they could figure out what it originally was, most of that stuff is not actually waste.
Yeah, right. It can either be repaired and refurbished or put to another use. Like there's all sorts of things you can do with it.
And a lot of times it's just plain old product. If you find a 15-year-old digital camera in the back of some car that you buy, right?
Yeah.
You're just not going to take the time to put that thing on eBay.
I don't think so, no.
Right? You might throw it in a dump, one of those kind of drop things for charities, right? And they're going to take one look at it and be like, put a price tag on it for 25 cents.
This goes on the shelf, and now it collects dust for the next 10 years.
You see, right? Whereas, here's a school in Mexico, right? They want digital cameras for the entire class. They'll pay $1.50, right? And there's just a stream of old digital cameras going down to high schools in Mexico. And when they're done with them, because they've all got better camera phones and they don't need this stuff anymore, it's going down to Guatemala, and after that it's winding up in Peru. Right? And those cameras last forever. Right? They're indestructible. They're immortal.
Yeah, good plastic, very few moving parts. You gotta really bash it to take it out of commission.
Right? And every year 5 or 10 or 20% of them die. But until every kid in the world has a camera, that camera has value.
Yes, and even then the surplus can be recycled for plastic. I mean, there's all sorts of scientific uses for, the material that lenses are made out of. You can do all sorts of stuff with. I'm a big garbologist myself. I believe in the power of trash.
Right? And there is no trash if you've got sufficient information.
Yeah.
Almost nothing is actually trash.
That's what I find so interesting about this particular application of the blockchain is to, at that granular level, determine the properties of each of these objects, because there are just so many things that, as people that live in extremely developed countries, we just don't think of uses for things that are around our house all the time that can be put to use in agriculture or mechanic, like all sorts of things that we can do with the objects that we have that we're just not using.
And all of that stuff, right? It's not that you're going to go and you're going to digitize all this stuff from scratch, right? This is going to come from the same schematics that were used to initially produce the object.
Right. That again goes back to the mass production piece. If you have a design that every single one of these objects is based on, you should be able to replace, and there is consistency and there is accountability in the supply chain, preferably.
And when the thing winds up as garbage, you pull the schematics and you automatically know what it's made of. Hey, these things have a ton of cadmium in them. Right, we better not send that anywhere.
Yeah. Let me throw a little bit of a hypothetical at you. Something that a case in this vein that I find fascinating is the global history of asbestos. Right? A material that at one point in history we found indispensable for any number of things. Make your clothes out of it. You want to wash your clothes, just toss them in the fire. Hell yeah. Burn all the trash off, just pop them back on. And as we learn more and more about what this material, did to the human body, we are still finding asbestos in buildings that we did not realize had asbestos in them. That sort of problem seems much more addressable under the system that you're talking about.
An excellent reason for doing things on the blockchain, because when asbestos became a problem, everybody just lost their records.
Oops. There was a fire. We should have made the paper out of asbestos.
I rented a loft in Chicago in 98, 99, right? Good times, right? Good times. Lead paint and asbestos.
Oh my God. It's a death trap.
It was pretty hairy, right? So, I spent like 6 weeks in a respirator getting rid of all the flaky lead paint that I could get off the walls, right? And then the asbestos was in just a single overhead pipe that had a 3-inch thick coating of dust, grease, and cobwebs on it.
Okay, that's a form of protection, I suppose.
Right? Good enough for me. 40 years of grease.
Cobwebs are extremely powerful.
You see? Nicely contained, and we just didn't touch it. Right?
Yeah.
Good enough, right? Because, it was very, very clearly covered in grease.
Yeah, as long as it's not flaking, as long as you're not getting little deadly dandruff bits in your lungs, you're pretty good.
Yeah. And, all that stuff, the delicacy of having to make that decision of, like, can we hack this? Do we leave it alone? Do we touch it? Do we bail on the deal? That's happening because nobody will give you a straight answer because there's so much legal liability attached, right? And if nobody's on the hook, they're not going to put themselves on the hook.
Absolutely not.
So with all of this stuff, right, selective forgetting is one of the ways that the powers that be fuck the population.
Sure. Yeah. The incident in Flint, Michigan, I think is a good example of how things like that are going to continue to happen, because those records are either deleted, omitted, or missing.
You see, right? Over and over and over again, right? Chemical weapons dumping in the oceans. Here's 100 tons of mustard gas. Who dropped it? Well, from the location, we'd probably guess the Americans. Any idea who? No.
Nah. Sergeant,
could have been any one of
what's his
51
name?
Government departments. Go on, right? So, this notion of you just keep records for things as a way of constraining power. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, right? And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but the blockchain-enabled nature of this means that there is a central repository for the data, but it is not stored in one central location that could be modified by a single person. Is that correct?
The blockchain is a fussy beast, right? So what it gives you is a proof of what once existed, right? Here's a hash of a file. The file is not on the chain. The hash of the file was on the chain because the blockchain is still pretty rudimentary. This is early stage tamper-proof technology. So sits on the blockchain, you get the hashes. The hashes point to another file system, typically IPFS. IPFS is not really as durable as you like, but Amazon has a really good, legal document storage network. So you could drop the documents in Amazon and then bind them to the blockchain through that. You could require people to keep copies. We could keep copies. But then how do we know that our copies are still going to be there in 20 years,
right.
50 years? Right? So long-term storage of legally significant documents, not an off-the-shelf solution yet, even in blockchain land.
And that's
just how it is.
Yeah, that is a solution that is being pursued by all sorts of firms, I imagine.
Yeah, and I mean, there are all kinds of good enough solutions. There are plenty of things which are, it's good enough for, I don't know, take your pick, right? KPMG. You can store the stuff to a higher standard than KPMG, good enough, right? But the critical thing about this is philosophically, this idea that you're just going to paper everything with the necessary evidence for litigation at all times, in almost no case is the buyer the one being litigated against. Right? That burden of proof points a gun at the head of the company that is selling the thing that might be covered in asbestos, that might collapse after 4 years because it just turns out that the guarantee they give you when you buy the laptop is 3 years and they all die after 4 because they've been value engineered to do that. Right?
No, that's an insidious little trick, yeah.
Isn't it? Right? But if you've got the records and you can show that's what happens, and then the dude from Lenovo comes along and is like, well, here's our service curve, and you can notice that on this curve, many of these laptops will still be in use in 2028. Are you going to buy the one that has a curve that looks like this, or the one that has a curve that looks like that?
Yeah, I like the longer tail.
Right? Because you're going to sell that laptop to somebody, and they're going to buy it for more because they've taken a look at the curve too.
Yeah. Yes, right? if all of the consumers are equally educated about the product, they will make better decisions.
You see, right? And even if they don't, they're going to ask a bot, and the bot is going to look at the graph, and it's going to look at their bank balance, and it's going to tell them to buy new or used, depending on how much money they want to spend and what the available market looks like.
Yeah.
Right? So now we've got direct head-on competition between high-value used and shitty new. And ordinary people can now make that call without having to become experts first, because all the data is there, and then software makes the decision for them.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about this being an important philosophical choice in these designs going forward, because that is radically different from how consumers interface with products currently.
You see, right? And what this is, right? If we think of this as there is a specification. I say I want a laptop for a 14-year-old to do homework on, right? What's my best choice? You ought to buy a used X260, right?
It's just enough to do homework and not enough to get into trouble on.
Right? You gave me the spec, that's what you want, right? Does the kid need the bang new Apple because they're going to be editing video? No, this is a homework machine, right? They're going to edit video, they're going to use dad's MacBook. Okay, fine.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So that notion that you can just tell it what the machine is for, and then some set of robots or humans looks at the available goods on the market because they've got precise specifications and then makes the call for you, off you go, right? Because what this allows is for used and new to compete head on because they're being accessed through the same pipe.
Rather than it being, in many instances, two completely distinct markets.
See, right? One pipe, just get me the best thing available in my category. High value, durable, used goes round and round and round and round and round for years in those kind of pipes. And suddenly we're displacing all this environmental destruction because what we've done is we've automated procurement, and the procurement system makes rational decisions unlike the 14-year-old.
Right, yeah. And even, even a well-trained professional in a stressful situation where the future of their company is at stake, potentially, they will make equally bad decisions.
Everybody makes bad procurement decisions because, after all, why else are we killing the world? We're killing the world through shitty procurement decisions. We buy things that cause the destruction of the planet. That's the only reason that capitalism is killing the world, is we're buying shit that kills the world.
Yeah.
This is the trading deficit with the future.
This is a tension that I've picked up on in a lot of your work that I find fascinating. This idea that capitalism as currently constructed is untenable. But because of the current regulatory system in which we find ourselves, it is also the only way out of our current predicament. Help me understand this a little bit more, because I find this concept fascinating.
Okay, so if revolution didn't tend to lead to genocide, I would probably be a revolutionary.
Right. But unfortunately, the record states otherwise.
Right? It just turns out that process of, breaking the eggs, oftentimes at the end of that, you don't wind up with an omelet.
You just have a bunch of fried eggs.
Right? Because, a lot of times, you think, well, maybe they're going to have their purge, and then afterwards they're going to get the socialist utopia.
Sure. Well, as long as you get all the bad ones in the purge, it's hard to do that, as it turns out. People, very, very hard to pin down.
Right? So you seem to never exit the purge. So, at that point, the idea that you're just going to clean this mess up and then it's going to be fine, there's just no evidence to support this as a viable trajectory. I looked at it like, is revolution the answer? And the answer was revolution appeared to be substantially less safe than having children make fireworks at home while smoking cigarettes that they stole from grandma. Right? Well, maybe it will be different. If it's my revolution, well, a lot of people seem to have thought that. A lot of
revolutionaries how they never seem to get it right.
Right? And, at that point, you have to look at revolution as a technology and say this is a shitty technology. Right? And here is the point where Americans say, well, not our revolution. Our revolution was fine. Right?
Yeah, we only did genocides to non-Americans. So that makes it okay.
Well, you see, right? And if you put the American Revolution in history as another revolution that was followed by genocide,
it might be. Folks, we've got one of the best revolutions ever. It's the deadliest.
Right? And suddenly you see how it suddenly fits right into the main sequence again? Mm-hmm. Well, the Americans, they had a revolution and they followed it with 2 centuries of slavery and genocide.
But the revolution itself was relatively clean. That's the important part.
Right? And then comes the slavery and genocide for the next 200 years.
Yeah, that's a later thing. We'll take care of that later. That's a later problem. We're gonna go ahead and do a slavery trade deficit with the future, unfortunately.
And, the gulag that they had, in Russia was not so different from the plantations that they had in the South.
Significantly colder.
But better working conditions.
Yeah.
People could get married in the gulag.
Yeah, that.
And you sort of think of this whole thing of racial politics in the States. It still blows my mind that the common understanding is not that America had a revolution followed by the creation of racial gulags.
Yeah, no, it was about it's about its heritage and states' rights, and I'm a patriot, so there you go.
And I mean, I used to work for the Department of Defense. I was willing to help America win its wars, although I was much more interested in getting them out of these shithole countries before they completely destroyed themselves.
That would be nice.
For the locals.
Everybody loses at the end of an occupation.
I mean, my tenure at DoD was late on in the day, right? It was like, I began to talk to those guys in like 05, and most of the contact was 06, 07, 08. But it was a question
so this is end of Bush, beginning of Obama, but before the surge.
Do we get out, right?
Yeah.
How do we get out of this mess, right? I was a water, power, sanitation, housing, refugee management specialist.
Oh God, what an insane environment to be doing that in.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to go in there and help them kill people.
Right.
No, but I mean, if it was a question of do you have any thoughts on how we could get out of this and leave the grid intact? That's a question I can answer with some kind of self-respect. So I didn't think so little of America and its constitution that I wasn't willing to help its military to the extent that I could, which was pretty limited, right? I looked at that and I was like, well, if it gets you out of there faster, that's a good deal all round. But it wasn't like, there's no way I'm working for this regime.
Right. Yeah, you seem to be an eminently practical man.
Yeah, but I mean, for example, the UK, my response was, there's no way I'm working for this regime, right? You people pushed my family off our land in Ayrshire 300 years ago. There's no reparations for the fucking Scots.
Yeah, no.
Fuck you and fuck your couch. You invade every single, right? You invaded 150 freaking countries, right? You cannot be trusted.
Tony Blair, you Habsburg-looking motherfucker.
Right? Right? Not my circus, not my monkeys. Not going to help the English imperialists, but the Americans, I'll give the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, look, the Great Britain was an incubator for American imperialism. We're the 2.0.
No, I think they're completely different, right? Because the Brits had nothing but people and boats, right? And the Americans had vast empty space. So the Americans have never gone in for occupations through natural resource extraction because they've got more natural resources than you do unless you happen to be African.
I like that as a distinction. That's a very good one.
It changes everything.
Projection
right?
of naval power to get the resources versus just sweep. These are our resources now.
You see, right? And the Americans just keep moving west, right? But once they're done, America still doesn't really do invasion for natural resources other than bananas for some weird reason.
Right. Well, we love potassium. We're very potassium deficient here in the States, so we need the bananas.
And I mean, the revenge of the Hawaiians is not complete. The pizza is a devastating first round, but, they really do owe America a right kicking.
Oh, once they take control of the entire spam control, once they get all the spam, they'll just hold the states hostage.
Them versus Samoa for the remaining spam control. Guam. Right? And that's all World War II American diet. The last time they saw Americans in bulk was World War II. The Americans bought spam and they're still eating it. Right? Imperialism is still killing these people, right? One plate at a time.
Yeah, one chunk of cholesterol at a time.
Right. No joke. So, the grinding surface here, right, is no doubt at all this imperialism thing is no goddamn joke, right? The American system for the people with a franchise has fairly reliably pulled them out of authoritarianism a piece at a time, right? No denying that America's original sin is that the Constitution only applied to white people and it didn't say that.
Yeah. We're going to write around it.
All men are created equal except black ones.
It's
or
the
natives,
implication.
or women.
Yeah.
Or, the French. It was really
we'll
very...
put more amendments later. It's fine.
Right? So, if we accept that for the people that were in the franchise bubble, it worked pretty well over time.
Yeah, I think that absolutely checks out historically.
And then we're finally at the point where we've expanded the franchise bubble on paper to everybody. The possibility is there for America to right itself in a fairly spectacular fashion, right? But it's only a possibility, right?
And requires a lot of systems to change to make that happen, yeah.
We have to get the corporations under control.
Yeah.
Right? And I know how to do it.
Oh, please, go on. Enlighten us.
The answer is consumer unionization.
Well, now, that's a phrase that kind of gets me going. Go on. Consumer unionization. What do you mean by that?
So suppose that we've got 1 million people paying $10 a month to be part of the Apple Consumer Union. We now have
I would
$10 million
unfortunately be a part of
month,
that.
right? $10 million a month to have a bunch of lawyers breathing down Apple's neck, to a bunch of technologists that disassemble every single new piece of hardware they produce and figure out whether you're being ripped off, right? That litigate over things like butterfly keyboard bullshit, right? And it just serves to represent the interests of the individual Apple buyer against Apple. Because the state is meant to do that job, and the state doesn't have the sophistication anymore, because high tech is really hard for the state to manage.
Yeah.
So if every company had a $10 a month consumer union associated with policing its behavior, the people that they've wronged join those unions, right? Maybe it's 0.5% or 1% of the people that are buying from the company that are pissed off enough to pay the $10 a month. Maybe for some companies it's $20 a year, depending on how much litigation you have to do.
Sure. Yeah, I guess
But what you
the
create,
better the company, the less it would cost to be a part of the consumers union.
and the less the union has to do.
Yeah.
But imagine the fear of God that would flow through Apple's veins if there was a $10 million a month litigation budget for keeping Apple in check on things like, let's say, butterfly keyboards. Or, right, labor practices. Did you see that iPhone factory? They tried to run an iPhone factory in India. You heard the story?
Oh, yeah. I have a Google News alert for Apple Factory and Foxconn just because I like to feel bad.
There you go. Right. So, they try and treat the Indians like the Chinese. It turns out the Indians can vote, and if you can vote, you can riot.
Yeah.
And the Indians riot and trash the factory, right? Because they're not going to get sent to the gulag because they trashed the factory they were working in, because there is no gulag in India.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas in China, the workers go right back in and they take it every goddamn day and they kill themselves. In India, they kill you.
And yeah, one of those, obviously, preferably no one dies at all, but one of those forms of violence is more equitable than the other.
Right? Because in India, they don't have the state. Apple doesn't have the state to do its oppression for it in India.
Yes, which is very much the case in the States for some companies and not for others. We have our companies that we like and we like to do business with, and then there's other companies that, they can operate here, but maybe they should be based in Ireland instead.
A lot of that, right? So the thing about consumer unionization is you can hit them where it hurts, which is the wallet, right?
Yeah. And I mean, maybe even to a company like Apple, $10 million is not that much litigation, but for a company that has that many customers, it would probably be a lot more than 10 million. And I see how this scales based on the company. The more service they provide, the more ubiquitous their customer base, the easier it would be to create those.
The more important they are. If you're taking a chemotherapy drug, immediately you're joining the consumer union that watches that drug company.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. I imagine that would provide specifically for pharma and some of the other less accountable industries like that. That would be a severe penalty that is not currently in place.
Now, did I mention this whole thing about this asset passport system being litigation-ready paperwork?
You sure did, and that seems like a pretty good thing to pair with this idea about a consumer union.
We fix the agency of corporations by documenting exactly how they interact with us and then pooling our resources to litigate based on that. And we don't need to change the law to rein these fuckers in.
Right. That I think is crucial right there, because until that... See, you're using your Sith powers for good here. I'm very confused. You're confusing me right now.
That was just a
All
lie
that
that
you know
Jedi
about
told
the
you.
Sith, you learned from the Jedi.
Oh my god. Sorry, a minor aneurysm there. I'm going to have to work that one out later.
Well, all I'm saying is this, right? You know what the difference is between the Sith and the Jedi?
Tell me.
Right. The Sith are allowed to get it on, and the Jedi are not.
It's, there are communities out there that believe that abstaining from masturbation gives you magical powers. And I think that just means that the Jedi are just kind of like the guys on r/nofap on Reddit, and the Sith are more of an alpha Chad mentality. You know, they're just busting everywhere, you know, wherever they need to. You know, and that's the power. That's the power of the Darth Vader. Wouldn't you like to bust in your suit? And that's how the Emperor got him.
Well, you know, the path to the dark side was actually lined with girls.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
But the problem with it is that, the Jedi propaganda films, which you've all been subjected to as part of making you resistant to the arrival of the Sith, really overstress the value of celibacy, right?
Oh, absolutely they do.
If you're a Jedi and you break your vows, of course there's going to be an enormous amount of trouble, right? The Skywalkers are not supposed to exist. Anakin is not supposed to have children, and all that his children do is bring destruction and ruin to the galaxy because they're not meant to be there.
Unfortunately, yes.
But if he had turned to the dark side first, in an orderly, sensible way, then he could have gotten married. There would have been no need for secrecy. None of this don't ask, don't tell Jedi Temple nonsense, right? None of this problem with the younglings that you were pointing out earlier on. And everything would be fine. And the reason, right? It is true that if you have the Sith reproducing, they do tend to produce hereditary imperial lineages, right? But if you have the Jedi and they have democracy, what you wind up with is the collapse of order. And the Jedi are fabulously corrupt because they're not getting any, legitimately.
I think you might be gesturing towards some sort of synthesis of these two paths, possibly being the way out of the predicament that we're in.
Well, the synthesis of the two paths is simply that everybody should be a Sith unless they happen to be born asexual.
All right, yeah, that checks out. Yeah, the Jedi as a path for the asexual individual, and everybody else is a Sith. Yeah, I think that checks out.
What's the point of trying to make people celibate if they're not celibate by nature anyway? Not that all asexuals are celibate, but it's a lot easier for them.
Amen.
Yes.
Vinny, we're out of time. Time absolutely flew during this interview. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. So let me ask you: is there what projects are you involved in currently that you want to give a shout out? You want to give a plug to? What are you excited about right this minute?
All right. So you got a picture of the hex here?
Yeah. Let me pull this up.
You find the hex here picture? I will show the book, The Future of Stuff. Right. So tiny little book, right? Available in pen, paper, or on Kindle. Like
highly recommend the Kindle version.
Right. And it really gets down into the hard detail about how you do things like retake the world as consumers. Consumer unionization, anti-slavery and supply chains, all of that stuff is in the book. Hexier?
This is the Hexier website. This skiff right here is showing the different models of Hexier. I particularly like the the dome-looking one. Very Bucky Fuller.
That thing is big, right? Yeah. Every triangle on that thing is the same triangle, so you can mass-produce those without even blinking.
That's incredible.
And that's $1,000 building.
And somebody with like a sufficiently advanced 3D printer could spit out one of these, right?
You don't need a 3D printer. All you need is a craft knife. You buy the panels at Home Depot and you cut them with a big freaking craft knife or a little saw.
Yeah.
Right? No 3D printer required. LA Launchpad, we've got a bunch of these things with homeless people living in LA. And if you build a Hexier out of this foam material and then wrap it in chicken wire and spray it with concrete, you've got a 100-year building.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, that's incredible. Yeah, I forget where I read this that you mentioned that folks were hesitant to pick these up for fear of homeless camps becoming permanent housing. God forbid homeless people get permanent housing.
We could go 2 hours on homelessness. All I'm going to say is, do you know how much money it costs us to keep people homeless? Because we have to constantly monitor them, and when they begin to house themselves, we have to knock their houses down.
Yeah, and then you got to stick them in jail, which costs yeah.
Per homeless person, how much are we spending to keep them homeless? It's crazy. So there's that, and then there is the company, which is doing all this cool, litigation-ready consumer management, all the rest of that stuff. It's called Materium, right? But I'm not in Sith mode. I tend not to talk quite so much about litigation.
Sure.
And consumer unionization is not the official policy of the company, but trust me, we're headed there.
Okay.
Right?
A little preview for you Materium heads out there.
Right? Blockchain company that puts physical stuff onto the blockchain using all these nice legal things, like this here shiny bar of gold.
Ooh, it's beautiful.
So you know those CryptoKitties?
I do.
End of this month, you're going to be able to buy a CryptoKitty that is linked to an individually numbered gold bar, and the CryptoKitty gives you the right to take physical delivery of the bar.
All
So
right.
that's coming right up.
That's pretty exciting.
And that is about it for me. Have fun on the dark side.
Oh,
Remember,
thank you so
if you're
much.
not asexual, the Sith are your people.
Oh, we welcome our Sith overlords.
And even if you are asexual, we'll still take you. You know, we can find ways to corrupt you that do not involve Nuki.
Sure. We'll find a way to express your passions.
You see what I'm saying?
Thank you so much, Vinny. It's been a real pleasure talking to you tonight.
So much fun. And now I have to go and watch all the Star Trek movies.
Yeah, that's
Star
right.
Wars,
That's
Star Wars
right.
again, following up on your naughty Jedi.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Vinny. I hope you have a great night. Enjoy the rest of that whiskey. I'm gonna be sipping a little after the show here myself.
Cheers.
All right. Have a good night. Well, folks, it's been a beautiful show this evening. You know, wonderful opportunity to talk to the one and only Dark Lord of the Sith, Vinny Gupta. You know, great pleasure having him on the show tonight. You know, look forward to a lot more content like that coming this year. You know, we're trying to talk. This is the show where we talk to interesting people. And that might be a tagline that I'm stealing from another show, but that's not legally actionable, so I don't really think you can do anything about it. So, you know, I just want to wish everybody out there a good night. You know, watch out for that Sith stuff coming in. Apparently, it's just a few days away, so we might be getting a little, you know, we might be, you know, being taken over very soon. But folks, we're gonna head out for the evening. You know, we're gonna take a little break here. You know, we'll be back in just a couple minutes. You know, we'll be back. You know, we'll do some riffs. We got a little current event stuff for you. We're gonna get the second half of our holiday special. All right, thank you so much. We'll be back in just a minute.
Caw, 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 caw.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. It's me, Dr. Beelzebub Crow, from The Too Late Show with Dr. Beelzebub Crow. That's me. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thanks for tuning in tonight, folks. We brought you a great interview, and now, for the last little bit of the show here, we're gonna, address a few, viewer questions. We're gonna spread some important misinformation. We don't look. I feel like that interview was like interesting and like slightly intellectual and educational, which I don't want to leave you on that note. Like a big part of our brand is to make you feel like you're stupider, but to actually be smarter. And we haven't really once we figure out how to make that exact combination of neurotransmitters happen, we're just going to make brain pills, and we're just going to sell brain pills for the rest of our careers. But until that happens, we're trying to do a good mix them up on you. So, we brought you some smart stuff, and now we're going to go down a bit of a rabbit hole for the last little bit of the show here. But while I'm lining up a couple of things for folks, I'll turn to our producer, Mr. Producer. What kind of questions has the audience been kicking around to us on this show?
Audience has been pretty spicy tonight. We had a lot of anti-Sith propaganda going on in the chat.
That's kind of messed up.
Some UK apologism.
Okay, what are they apologizing for?
Oh, they were apologizing for the whole imperial activity by claiming that they gave out so many Independence Days that made it fine. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
That's a fair point. There's a lot of Independence Days out there.
We've also been talking about this whole putting material things on the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
And one astute viewer was wondering where you could rent some more dopamine. Pretty low on that these days.
So dopamine rental actually is a lot easier than you might think. What you need to do is you need to first you're going to want to rent a jet ski. You're going to want to go out on that jet ski and jet around on the lake. My reasoning behind this is I've never seen a sad person on a jet ski. So I imagine I don't know whether it's the water that shoots up out of it. Maybe the water shoots up and kind of tickles your taint in a certain kind of way that produces dopamine. I'm not sure, but I've never seen a sad person on a jet ski. So I feel like at the very least you could rent a jet ski and that would produce some dopamine.
We also had some very interesting questions about the Ascended Masters and Ascended Enlightenment classes and
sure.
The folks that are involved in that whole deal. You see the name of tonight's show is the Holiday CryptoMastery Special and Enlightened Ascended Masters 2 Master Harder.
The second one, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they want to know who the Enlightened and Ascended Masters are, or what their deal is, or what they're planning, or just general
mastery related activities.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay. So first of all, it's important to distinguish. There's a few different historical epochs of ascended masters. The first ones were just Socrates and a bunch of guys that he fucked. The second one was David Hume, Jacques Rousseau, and a bunch of other guys that were wrong about stuff. And then the third and most important one, that was Adam Weishaupt and the Bavarian Illuminati. Now, they got suppressed by, let's just say everybody, and they had to go underground for a long time. And we kind of lost track of them. So, we don't actually know who the Ascended Masters are, but I do, they talk to me through podcasts, and they tell me secret messages of what to do. Which I think is normal based on the gang stalking websites that I visit.
What's your favorite Ascended Enlightened Mastery podcast?
It's this one. Yeah, it's
mine.
That's
a trick question.
Yeah, we're launching a podcast. You're on the first. Hey, folks, you're on the first episode of the Two Crow podcast with Dr. Late, me. Yep, Dr. Late Zabub. No, we don't talk about the Descended Masters.
We don't talk about the Descended Masters.
Yeah. The other cool Ascended Masters, you got M. Blavatsky.
Shyamalan.
No, that's a different guy. You got J.R. Bob Dobbs. You got Malaclips. One of them, I don't remember which one, the old one or the young one. One of those guys, one of those Malaclips guys. Those are Ascended Masters. Adele. Actually, a lot of people don't know that, but Adele actually is one of the Ascended Masters. Yeah, I know a couple others that I can't really talk about that you guys would not be happy to hear about either. Let's just say one of them has a certain online channel where he talks about certain government conspiracies, and his name rhymes with Malik's Crohn's.
While we're here on these important and touchy subjects, we should talk about how we really want to get sponsored, or are definitely actually already sponsored by our favorite activities and liquor beverages.
Yeah, that is important. Yeah. So tonight's show, as always, is brought to you by Old Crow Whiskey.
Old Crow.
Go. As you may know, Dr. James Crow invented the sour mash process in and he made the first whiskey, which really, like, Dr. Crow belongs in what I like to refer to as the pantheon of human geniuses. And that's guys that went and just, like, drank stuff that looked disgusting to be able to tell the rest of us whether it was good or not. So, I mean, like, Dr. James Crow invented the sour mash process, which is basically like you take the grain, you let it rot with the fermentation and the whatnot, and you take the liquor out, okay? But then you've got this disgusting goop in the bottom of a barrel. Well, Dr. James Crow's great innovation was like, shit, bucko, what if I make liquor out of this a second time? And he did, and that's where we got Kentucky Damn Bourbon Whiskey from, which is the blood that runs through my veins. Additionally, we are not sponsored by BlueChew.com, but I am continually reaching out to the Blue Chew offices by email, by phone, by taxi cab, just really harassing their executives, trying to get sponsored, trying to get those sweet free dick pills.
You think Blue Chew has anything to do with that new Danish cartoon that's been making the news rounds?
Yeah, the penis cartoon?
Yeah.
The cartoon of the man with the giant penis?
Yeah, is that like some psyop by Blue Chew?
It's not a psyop, that's just their official show.
Oh.
Yeah, and we're trying to get sponsored by, so like if you work for Blue Chew, if you take Blue Chew, hit me up and let them know, well, hit them up, I guess, and tell them that I want to be sponsored by them. So.
And Old Crow.
Yeah, well, we're already sponsored by Old Crow. We're trying to get the sponsorship from Blue Chew. And NordVPN or Shade, Raid Shadow, like any of those guys, just hit me up. It's really expensive being the son of Satan, actually. You would not believe it.
You know, I heard we also have that really racy bit that we were going to test out maybe. You know,
Okay. So check it out. All right, so 3 Antifa and a Chud walk into a bar. And is it, is that, should I, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Okay, yeah, legal's getting in touch with me.
Yeah.
Not
legally actionable.
That's not parody. That's not even a protected category. So, like, how could you say? Okay, fine. Look, apparently the bit is not allowed. We'll get back around to it. Apparently, calling someone a cop is a hate crime in some jurisdictions. I don't understand that personally, but whatever. I just do what legal says, and that's how we, continue to be sponsored by Old Crow.
Thanks, Parody Parrot.
Yeah, thanks,
you really
Parody
saved
Parrot.
our butts there.
Yeah, that's our legal team. We got a couple of parrots
Old
back
Crow.
in the legal department. They're kind of like Island of Dr. Moreau style animals. Like, they're like highly intelligent. Some would say sentient. I don't know. I don't really talk to them because they're, the legal team. I try not to talk to legal or HR at all, ever, if I can help it. But yeah, so okay, we'll just abort that bit. We'll do something. We'll do something else.
He's not legally actionable.
So let's talk about a couple more holidays. This is part of this is the holiday spectacular. So I think it's important that we kind of talk about some of the origin, of some holidays. I particularly find solace in the idea that most holidays are like kind of for a dumb reason. President's Day, for example. Like, that's not even either one of those guys' birthdays. And if you were going to do like President Washington and, President, whoever the other one is, the guy with the chin and the beard and the hole in his brain, you would take the average, right, and put it right in the middle of their two birthdays. But they don't even do that. So, like, okay, whatever. That doesn't matter. I don't know why that's a holiday. What I really want to talk about is Columbus Day. Now, this is a holiday.
Abort bit.
Come on, Parody Parrots.
Just kidding.
Oh, thank God. So Columbus Day is a holiday that has some controversy associated with it, because of the whole, genocide angle that Columbus was about. And the slavery and the other kind of war crime-y stuff that he did. Not a cool guy, Columbus. People weren't even a fan of him. Believe it or not, the Portuguese government wasn't even a fan of Columbus. When they heard about all the weird stuff he was doing over there, they had him arrested. Okay, so, Columbus, not a cool guy. Not a cool guy. But that's not the point. So, okay, here's what happened. Back in olden times, when Italian people had not yet become culturally white yet, there was a big wave of anti-Italian racist attacks in New York. And a couple of Italian guys, I don't know their names. I'm actually not going to say. I'm not going to say what I think their names were. And they got, murdered by a mob, so to speak. And the Italian-American community in New York was, understandably, extremely fucking pissed about this whole happening. So they got together and they did kind of a counter-mob situation. They were like, we're going to fuck up New York if you don't give us justice. And so the mayor of New York was like, okay, calm down. Look, if you guys don't riot, I will give you a day for some famous Italian guy. And he racked his brain, the mayor of New York, and he just went through the list of all the famous people he could think of. And he couldn't think of any Italians except for Christopher Columbus. So he's like, look, I'll give you a Columbus Day. And the mob was temporarily appeased. Now, as this became sort of a tradition in the city of New York, the Knights of Columbus, a fraternal organization of largely Italian men, it's a Catholic fraternal organization, but lots of Italians in the New York area joined the Knights of Columbus. They started to agitate for it to become a statewide holiday, right? And so the Knights of Columbus during this time period had a lot of influence over the political machine of New York, right? They were Catholic connected, they were family guys, they had businesses, they were well-connected guys. So eventually they're like, we got to give it a state holiday, give us to Columbus. And the governor of New York's like, okay, cool, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll make Columbus Day a state holiday. Well, fast forward a few more years, and all over the nation, Columbus Day is the new sensation sweeping the nation. And eventually the president, one of those kind of crusty looking ones, Coolidge or one of those guys, I forget which one, he eventually made it a national holiday. So the point is, when people get upset about Christopher Columbus and they smash the statues, and we have the discourse every year about why are we even celebrating Christopher Columbus, who's a genocidal maniac, which again is acknowledged by the government of Portugal. Just remember, it's not about that. It's about the fact that two Italian guys got lynched in 18-something, and a big mob got together and were like, we need justice, and they got a holiday for it. So just remember, holidays are bullshit. Every day is special. And, live your life to the fullest as if you were not Christopher Columbus.
Especially Saturday night with the Too Late Show.
Especially Saturday night with the Too Late Show with Dr. Beelzebub Crow. That's me. But it's not just me. There's a huge squad, thousands and thousands of people that make this show work. We've got our 10,000 or so unpaid interns. They're fresh to hell. My dad sends them up to me. He's like, whip them into shape. And I'm like, I'm not going to give them a job, Dad. He's like, fuck you, son. Whatever. Anyway, so we've got all of our unpaid interns, but of course we have the rest of the production crew that we love so very, very much. We of course have our executive producer, Mr. Producer.
That's me.
That's him. And of course we have the man on the ones and the twos and the possibly threes and floors if we're talking about quantum computing here, Mr. Jonah Jones. Give us a beep, a little beepy booper.
Hello.
Yeah, bleep, 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 bleep. And then of course we have the guy who's running the board, whose soul is actually invested inside of our Chiron down here, Dr. B Supreme. He can't really talk to us because his consciousness is he actually can talk to us through the board. So
we would like to thank Dr. Supreme for his service.
Yeah, and sacrificing his body to go into a Chiron. That's I feel like he maybe should have gotten a job at CNN or something. We don't pay nearly as much to suck a soul into a Chiron. Anything else our audience wants to bring up before we get out of here tonight? I've got at least 6 or 7 more riots I got to start before we do the next show.
Well, we had that pretty famous Ethereum guy on for the first half of the show.
Yeah.
And we forgot to plug our very own shitcoin.
Oh, shit. Yeah, okay, look, folks. Okay, look. So we figured out something. So talking to President Jaguar and his revelations about Lushcoin, we've determined that we actually are going to start a coin here, and we're doing it for a couple different reasons. Okay, you got free speech, you got big tech, you got censorship, and you have stocks. Okay, so check it out. What we're going to be doing, we're going to make a cryptocurrency that you can purchase from us to tip us for doing the show. So it's going to be called CrowCoin. And what you could do is you could purchase CrowCoin from our website that's been shut down just temporarily while we take care of a couple legal issues. And you can purchase CrowCoin for cold hard cash. Okay, but then you keep the CrowCoin until you give it to us for doing the show. So you'll get access to the show. You'll get access to us saying thank you for Crow Coins. You'll get access to us getting richer and richer and richer, and you getting to watch us getting rich and sort of feeling fulfilled in a parasocial sort of way that we're doing well to make up for the complete dearth of relationships in your life. And the more Crow Coin you give us, the more you feel like you're part of our thing. So 10 out of 10 industrial psychologists agree this is a healthy relationship to have to a media product, and you should all get involved.
It's like OnlyFans, except instead of giving us money, you give us our own crypto tokens, and instead of us taking our clothes off, we give you a talk show.
Yeah, you get to talk. Like, just to be clear, if you pay me, I will show you my butthole. But I would prefer that you pay me for the talk show. It's just whatever works.
You heard it here third on the Too Late Show.
Yeah. So, hang in there, folks. I know, we're moving into the 10th month of quarantine. I actually have been totally healthy this whole time. I've gotten really into rocks and crystals, and I'm pretty sure that these are what's keeping me safe from the coronavirus. Like, I rub them all over my body, and I swallow them and spit them back out and put them on the desk, and I haven't gotten sick. I'm also desperately deficient in vitamin D. I haven't left my house in 10 months. I'm completely destitute, and I am currently prostituting myself for rent money. So if you want to give us some Crow Coin, you just kick it my way. Just kick it on this way. And, we'll be back, with lots of great content for you, probably even sooner than next year. So everybody out there, remember, 2021, this is the year of the crow in the sort of third floor zodiac calendar, just like every year is the year of the crow. And, just get out there and make it happen. Build yourself a hexayurt, start cataloging all of your stuff on the blockchain. Get together and form a consumer union. I'm getting together with 5 other guys, and we're going to do a consumer union on GameStop, and we're going to sue the shit out of them. So, you got, everybody out there, have a great time. Watch out for that Sith invasion. Don't forget to go vote in the secret presidential elections next week. Democracy! Re-elect President Jaguar. He'll get in there for another 100 years. He'll do a great job. All right? Look, each and every one of you is special to me. Pay me money. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Crow, signing out.
Oh.